military analyst, and Hagar Shamali, former National Security Council member and Syria and Lebanon director at the White House and former spokesperson for the U.S. mission to the United Nations. Raf, what do we know about this latest strike, the one in Iran?
Well, Jose, the Israeli government is refusing to comment one way or another. So what we know is coming largely from Iranian state media and from the Iranian government. They are saying around 1:45 a.m. local time, there was a missile strike on Ismail Haniyeh's residence in Tehran, the capital of Iran. They say that missile strike killed both the Hamas political chief and one of his bodyguards. And what is really striking, Jose, is this strike came just a few hours after Haniyeh met with Iran's supreme leader. So this is a major embarrassment for the Iranian government that they weren't able to keep such a high-profile figure safe. Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader of Hamas, he was really more of a politician than he was a fighter. He has been outside of Gaza for the last 5 years, living, frankly, relatively comfortably in Qatar while his people were suffering inside of Gaza, rather. He has been traveling the world. He's been rallying support for Hamas. And, Jose, I will say, in the days after the October 7th attack, Israel vowed it would hunt down the top leaders of Hamas. They have now killed Ismail Haniyeh, the political leader. They have killed his deputy. They appear to have killed the military chief inside of Gaza. And so it is just Yahya Sinwar, the Gaza chief, the mastermind of October 7th, who remains at large. Jose?
And Ralph, so what could this mean for the talks for any potential ceasefire or hostage deal? I mean, this guy was intricately involved in those discussions.
It is a really, really important question, Jose, and it is one that the Prime Minister of Qatar, who has been the main mediator throughout these negotiations, was asking earlier. He said, how can we be expected to mediate when one side of the negotiating table is killing the other? We just spoke, Jose, with Daniel Lifshitz. His 84-year-old grandfather, Oded, is still being held in Gaza, 299 days of captivity. He told us he is the only great-grandfather anywhere in the world being held hostage, and he says he is deeply concerned that this killing could potentially derail these ceasefire negotiations, and he is appealing to the United States, to Qatar, and to Egypt to try to keep these talks on track. Jose?
Ralph Sanchez in Tel Aviv, thank you so very much. So, General, this top Hamas figure being taken out in Iran is quite a statement. How do you see it?
Well, look, I think both these targets were legitimate. Certainly knocking out the Hezbollah senior leader responsible for the strike in the Golan Heights that murdered 12 young children, as well as the Hamas leader in Tehran. However, the timing, the place, the consequences seem to argue against both these operations in a manner. Undoubtedly, it stopped the peace negotiations for the time being at a minimum. So the Israelis aren't going to get back the 40 or 50 hostages that may remain alive in Gaza. And then in addition, one would hope that the principal goal of the Israeli political system right now is to avoid a regional war and certainly avoid war with 100,000 plus Hezbollah fighters. So the outcome of this is unknown, but undoubtedly will be extremely complex and dangerous in the coming weeks. This was not a good move by Israel when you back off the strategic import of it.
And I mean, just thinking here of these two people that were taken out, this Hezbollah leader that, as the general says, was in some way related to the attack on those 12 mostly kids. He was also someone who was intricately involved in the killing of American Marines in Beirut so many years ago. Just, Hagar, the timing, as the general says, what do you think that the timing does for any possible movement on negotiations with Hamas, and as the general says, the possibility of Hezbollah getting involved.
Sure. Well, so on the timing, you have clearly it's almost as though these two attacks were not actually coordinated, because the Hezbollah one is very clearly a response to that attack against the soccer field where 12 kids were killed. And the Hamas leader one, that one being in Iran, which is a place where, by the way, Israel has pursued attacks before. If that was Israel, I can't confirm for them, obviously, it would have taken much longer to plan that than the attack they pursued in Dahieh in southern Beirut against the Hezbollah leader. And so they may not have been coordinated, though clearly yesterday was a bad day to be a terrorist. The fact is that whatever slip be replaced in 5 minutes. It is a significant dent to these terrorist groups. They're trying to achieve that, undermine, make them more weak, and also establish deterrence, re-establish deterrence for them. And by increasing pressure this way, they're hoping to parlay that in ceasefire talks. Ceasefire talks are not going to be suspended indefinitely. They're going to be paused for the moment, and then they're going to pick up again, because at the end of the day, this conflict goes on, and there's pressure on both sides to reach a deal.
And General, just thinking, I mean, the fact that Iran, for the first time, just some time ago, actually launched attacks, missiles from Iran to Israel. There is a new phase coming. And General, I mean, this morning, Secretary of Defense Austin said he didn't think war was inevitable in the region, saying there's always room for diplomacy. How do you see this new phase?
Well, both Secretary Blinken, who's invested enormous amounts of energy and personal contact to try and prevent escalation, and Secretary Austin are in a real pickle right now. You know, it's hard to imagine the Iranians will not respond with a significant, even major attack that's likely to go after Tel Aviv. That's bad news for the region. I think the more consequential danger, though, remains a war with Hezbollah. 100,000 fighters, 150,000 some odd rockets and missiles, the potential for a year-long conflict that brings into the target arena all the Israeli cities. Israel needs to avoid that war. And so nailing a Hamas military commander over an incident in the Golan Heights, which I might add is almost undoubtedly an errant missile. It wasn't a planned murder of 12 children. I think the Hezbollah rockets were being aimed at IDF observation points up on Mount Hermon. But one way or the other, they're taking this provocation and turned it into a major attack in downtown Beirut. The Israeli War Cabinet needs to sit down and think through what their strategic aims are, because these two attacks in concert put them in greater danger, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, and Hagar, Hezbollah is a far different fighting force than is Hamas.
Sure. Well, so since the last Israel-Hezbollah war in 2006, we've all been saying that both sides are preparing for the next showdown. And they really have been. Both have been beefing up their missiles and defense systems. And as the general noted, a war between Israel and Hezbollah would be catastrophic. You're talking about a much stronger force than Hamas, 100,000 strong, much more well-funded and armed. But that said, both sides also genuinely don't want to enter a full-scale war. Otherwise, they would have been by now. And that doesn't mean that miscalculations or certain steps and events can't lead to that war inadvertently. The risk of that is more heightened than ever than we've seen over the last 9 months. The way out of this for this scenario, if you see a barrage of missiles like you had a couple months ago from Iran, that the U.S. and Israel intercept by, let's say, from both Iran and Hezbollah, and they intercept them, then the matter can, quote, be concluded and everybody can kind of retreat. However, if those missile attacks, and as the general noted, Hezbollah and Iran are definitely going to respond. If those missile attacks are much more devastating in nature, it could really spark a devastating war between Israel and Hezbollah that won't be easy to rein back.
General Barry McCaffrey and Hagar Shamali, thank you both so very much for being with us this morning. Still ahead, the latest on the desperate effort to contain out-of-control wildfires rapidly spreading out west. Plus, protests over the legitimacy of Venezuela's presidential election have turned deadly. We'll get a live report from Caracas. And in just 90 seconds, presidential candidate Vice President Harris strikes back after Trump attacks her on immigration and the southern border.
Donald Trump does not care about border security. He only cares about himself.
I own a lot of businesses, so my tech and my network need to keep up. Thank you, Verizon Business.
Now our businesses get fast and reliable internet from the same network that powers our phones.
So whatever's next, we're cooking with fire.
Switch to the partner businesses rely on.
I was so excited to buy my first home, but I needed a lot of work done on it. I went on to Angie. Jamie was the first person to call. He's resurfaced my flooring. He's done plumbing work. He's refinished this beautiful table here.
Find top-rated certified pros in your area at Angie.com.
Doctors recommend Colay stool softener for gentle, dependable relief from constipation. It's so gentle, doctors even recommend it during pregnancy and after surgery. Colay's increases water in the stool, making it softer so it's easier to go. No harsh laxatives, cramping, or straining. Colay's.
My grandfather's run Maya the Hatter for over 75 years now. He's got so many life experiences that he can share. Finding the exact date on Ancestry that our family business was founded was special to share with my grandfather. You don't get that moment every day.
With powerful, easy-to-use tools, Power E-Trade makes complex trading easier. React to fast-moving markets with dynamic charting and a futures ladder that lets you place, flatten, or reverse orders so you won't miss an opportunity. E-Trade from Morgan Stanley.
On Chewy, save 35% off your first order. With selection for any pet with any diet at prices you'll love. Delivered fast, right to your door. For low prices and fast shipping, for life with pets. There's Chewy with everything.
13 past the hour today, new battleground polling shows a competitive race between former President Trump and Vice President Harris. Harris is now leading Trump in 4 of 7 states, but most of those advantages are within the margin of error. And in one of the states where they are tied, Georgia, Harris made her first stop as the de facto Democratic nominee, and she had this message for Trump.
I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
Today, the former president is set to return to Pennsylvania for the first time since his assassination attempt. He'll be holding a rally in Harrisburg, where the campaign says he plans to focus on the vice president's immigration record. Joining us now, NBC News campaign embed, Nnamdi Igwanwu, and NBC News senior national politics reporter Henry Gomez. Nnamdi, the vice president addressed the attacks Trump has been launching against her on the humanitarian crisis at the border and immigration. What did she have to say?
Yeah, Jose, she seemed well prepared for some of those attacks, almost as if the campaign anticipated some of them. And what we saw from her yesterday was a really interesting approach. She actually leaned in to her experience as the Attorney General of California, saying during that time she prosecuted drug cartels and transnational gangs and often won in those cases. She then accused Trump of sort of talking a big game on immigration.